you about my guest, Kimberly Dvorak, award-winning national security and border security investigative reporter for TV, radio, and the print media. She is the senior foreign policy advisor for the Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy, TV correspondent, CW News 6 in San Diego, as well as One American News Network. And her website is the KD Report, and she streams live at periscope.com, Facebook, and a little bit later on you'll find her on YouTube. Hello, Kimberly. How are you?
I'm fine. How about yourself, Chuck?
Pretty good. Are you streaming live on Facebook?
I am streaming live on Facebook.
All righty, because you know how I am. I'm always
yeah, I know you're a little slow, so it takes you back.
Yeah, I've been told
That's
that
okay.
before. Yes, okay. Hey, listen, a lot of stuff to discuss here. Turkey isn't going to let the coronavirus crisis go to waste.
Yeah.
And in this report you bring up Obama's right-hand man, Rahm Emanuel. Now, how in the world would he tie in with coronavirus and they're not going to let it go to waste? Well,
of course, as you know, in Obama's first term, Rahm Emanuel was his chief of staff, and he told the president that you never ever let a good crisis go to waste. Meaning, when there's something going on in the economy or in foreign policy or wars or whatever it may be, the focus of the media's attention is going to go running that direction towards it. In the meantime,
I'll tell the listener real quick, the most obvious truth on that is every time there's a school shooting, just think about it. That's their motto.
Yeah.
Don't let this crisis go to waste. All right. Go ahead.
So in any effect, so looking at the Obama administration, I mean they saw a window and an avenue for them to get to Obamacare and get it passed through, and Nancy Pelosi with all of the don't worry about it, you'll read it after the bill to find out what's in it, it's all good. And then also I kind of started the article by going back to Hillary Clinton, who happened to be Secretary of State at the time, and saying that when you're looking at these overseas conflicts and that her statement in Benghazi, what difference does it make? Well, it does make a difference, and right now the Middle East is being slowly but surely kind of taken over and taken control by Turkey's president Erdogan. So we're seeing a dramatic shift in the region, and it's worth noting that the Sunnis are siding with the Turks, and the Sunnis are the ones that actually attacked us on 9/11. So if we're watching this entire region that Miss Hillary Clinton, under her tutelage, said it was a great idea to go in and have chaos in Libya, and smiled and laughed about, we came, we saw, and he died, about the president who wasn't a good guy by any stretch, but I mean that was kind of a political assassination in effect. We're watching Turkey now take advantage and actually reap the rewards that has been sowed by Miss Hillary Clinton.
What goes around comes around.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, when you look at the Obama administration, they wanted to get into Syria. They wanted to remove Bashar al-Assad. That is still, and he's still president of that country. They wanted to go into Libya. They wanted to, they didn't want to let the Arab Spring crisis go to waste. So they went in, and that country is in complete chaos and has been ever since. And Yemen, also, they wanted to go in. They went in and drone striked and killed 3 Americans. One of at least was an alleged leader of the al-Qaeda in Yemen, which I guess would be, it's okay with U.S. law on that, but the 2 others were just American citizens. So it didn't seem to bother them to do those kind of things. But right now you're seeing that there is just nothing but chaos in that part of the region, and there's got to be somebody to pick up the pieces. And this is where Erdogan has strategically looked at this whole thing and said, you know what, this coronavirus, this is my crisis, and the whole world is focused on this. And I'm, in the meantime, going to be going around and taking control of these other countries in an effort to reinstall the Ottoman Empire that collapsed after World War I. So he's looking to reinstate that part of the world.
Sounds like a very large task on this end, Kimberly. Coming up on our break here, and we're going to take this break right now, and we're going to continue with this one. Turkey isn't going to let the coronavirus crisis go to waste. Kimberly Dvorak, streaming live, Facebook, Periscope.com. Yes. Hey, tell me about this problem that pops up here. Erdogan,
yep.
Vladimir Putin, Assad.
Yeah.
The threesome there doesn't sound, they don't all get along, do they?
Well, actually, Bashar al-Assad, the president of Syria, is just kind of like clinging onto hope that somebody will, save him, and it's not going to be clearly Turkey's not going to come in to save him. So he's banking his entire, what's left of his life and what's left of the country, frankly, on the Russians and Vladimir Putin. But, let's just step back for a second to see, because we've seen this increased in hostilities over the last week or so in the region inside Syria. Now, this started on February 27th when the Syrian government, protecting their homeland, killed 33 Turkish soldiers, who these soldiers are sitting, they're 350 miles inside the Syrian government. So they've got they'd have to travel 350 miles to get back to their country. So we're expected, I guess, in this case to believe that that's a really bad thing. That I can't believe that the Syrian government would kill 33 Turkish soldiers there. But I mean, just look at it. If Mexico did the same thing here, of course you're going to protect yourself. So without cover on this, the Erdogan government is kind of stuck, and people like you and I can see clearly and go, well, heck, you're in somebody else's country. They're probably going to attack you. So he has gone to Washington, D.C. He's asking President Trump for Patriot missiles, for other munitions and money so he can complete his takeover of Syria. Now, hopefully President Trump stands up and says, you know what? We're trying to get ourselves out of Afghanistan. I really don't think we're going to help you out, although they are a NATO ally. So this, also provides a little twist in the situation, because by NATO law we have to protect Turkey, but Turkey's attacking another country. So, and they're defending their country against attack from Turkey. So it gets so confusing, I think, for some people on all this. But if you take a look at it, and you look at it just in that very simplistic terms, that Turkey has traveled 350 miles inside Syria, and they got to a point where they were in a battle with the Syrian government army, and they lost 33 soldiers. So is it America's responsibility to fork out money we don't have? And maybe, we should be focusing on some of this coronavirus and ensuring that we're spending that money that we would give to Erdogan to actually, come up with more antibiotics. So, in the successive years that this virus grows, that we'll be able to stop it. And this is what Americans are so sick and tired of, is this stuff going on in the Middle East. And everybody racing to America to come help, you got to help us with this. Mr. President, the president of this country, Trump, ought to just look over at the Germans and tell the Germans, the Italians, the French, and the others, you know what? We're not coming to your rescue. I know that Erdogan has reneged on his deal after you gave him $6.6 billion to keep those Muslim refugees down there, and he's released them. Now he's allowing them to go up to the EU. President Trump ought to let them, take their border security seriously, because they don't, and they expect that the Americans are going to come in. So this is President Trump's opportunity to America first and check off a couple of those campaign promises that he's out on the campaign trail regularly still touting. This is a great opportunity for him to put his foot down and say, look, you know what? You guys aren't paying your fair share for NATO. Maybe NATO ought to be taking care of this region.
That's what I was just thinking, all those comments he made when he went to the United Nations, pay your fair share, $6.6 billion. And you wonder, because you hear so many times where we give Ukraine this or somebody this and somebody this, and it doesn't seem to go where it's supposed to go.
No. And in the end, it's just, the American taxpayers are on the hook for this. And why? I mean, is Ukraine our backyard? Is the Middle East our backyard? No, our backyard is Mexico and Central America and Canada. which Canada seems to be a pretty good neighbor. So, in all seriousness, we should really be focusing on our region, because Mexico has a very serious problem going on right now. And especially with this coronavirus, I think, closing the border and ensuring that we know exactly who's coming into our country is even more important than ever, because now people can just, fly into Mexico and cross across the border, and who knows if they have the coronavirus. They may not. They could have other viruses that they bring to this country, whether it's on purpose or by accident. In any case, the final burden of that cost would be on the American taxpayer again, because here we are. We're going to have to put a lot of money into these, pharmaceutical companies to help them build these antibiotics so we can get them out on the market, so we don't have massive loss of life here in this country. And, the world sees all of this as a, open hand, give me the candy, I need my fix, whatever it may be. This country has got to start focusing on this country, and this is the perfect opportunity. And this is the crisis that the president of the United States should not let go to waste, and actually focus on his America First agenda.
Yep, and and you're talking, because you just brought it up, they all look at us like we are the candy store. And in your report, you say, of course, Turkey knows that Trump won't do anything until after November and the elections, right?
Yep, 100%. He won't let. The president is kind of on a roll. He's letting the Democrats fight it out. I guess it's down to 5 now, most likely be down to, I would say, 3. After a week or two, I think we'll be down to 3. Maybe Elizabeth Warren will try to hang on, but it's going to, the numbers are going to slowly dwindle. They're focusing on socialism on the Democrat side, fairly certain middle America, whether they're Democrat or Republican, don't support socialism. And if they want to see how any of that's working, just head over to Europe and see how Italy is handling their socialist government over there, with having the largest number of coronavirus people inside their country, and the death toll is rising there, and it's really moving leaps and bounds there. That's socialism, and I think it'll be a very easy fight for the president to do this. And he just, I think, wants to take this and try not to make any kind of mistakes and get the re-election under his belt. But it'd be really nice for him to just allow what's going on over there to just kind of play out. Because in the very end, with all of this, the very end game will come down. Turkey, hands down, has the largest, most competent military in the region. They could take out Saudi Arabia in 2 days if they wanted to. That's how capable, as a NATO ally, having that high-powered weaponry that they do have. They are definitely the dominant force to be had over there. And so far, the Sunni states in the Gulf are actually funneling money to Erdogan to help him on his quest here. And, unbeknownst to most on the peninsula there, Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, Qatar, and UAE and others, in the end, Erdogan wants to be the caliph, and he will take it that far. And if he has to dispose of people inside the, peninsula there, he has no problem doing that. And that would set up a likely end game, and the end game in that region would be, Turkey versus Iran. And that is where all of this is headed. It may take a year, it may take 10 years. We don't know exactly when this will happen, but this is squaring off to be that's how this is going to end. And, and none of this concerns America. We don't need the oil over there. And we need to let these countries decide, who their rulers are going to be. And what we probably ought to do, like after they start, taking over the Middle East and doing what they're doing there, shoring up the NATO allies and ensuring that Europe can actually remain Europe. Because, with the passage of another 1 million Muslim refugees into the, European Union, you're going to see, massive demographic change in that part of the world as well. So, it's just, all of this stuff there's a reason for all of this stuff happening. And then you look at smart leaders and leaders that are strategic, and Erdogan is playing the cards, and he knows this is his time right now. And Putin is really not in a position right now to do too much. Erdogan realizes that, because if Putin takes on Turkey, Turkey will most likely, drag it out to where it would, create a lot of blood and treasure loss for Russia. And Putin would be out of office, just like Khrushchev was during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Again, another crisis. So, but he lost his job as president during that crisis. So Putin is a pretty smart guy, and he's looking at this, and he's probably trying to split the middle on some of this stuff. And we'll see how long he continues his support with Bashar al-Assad, because that's the only person keeping that country afloat right now.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You got to watch out if you're Russian, how you're playing your cards. You brought up the Cuban crisis. I want to go back to, in your report, Erdogan's map was what you put this one under. And you talk about President Carter's national security advisor, Brzezinski, is that his name?
Yep, Brzezinski.
And he actually ties into this, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. This is kind of something that after World War II, I mean, the Ottoman Empire basically had the Crescent down there. And after World War II, and they decided they were going to break up all of this, you had, the northern part of Iraq, the northern part of Syria, and the northern part of Iran. And this is where all the Kurds live, just to keep in mind. This is where our friends, the Kurds, all live in this northern region. That was all given to them after the end of World War I by Russia. So they are living in borrowed land in essence, and with the exception of the Kurds in northern Iraq, who really kind of they are able to get along with the Iraqi government, and they realize they're in a very tenuous situation, and that's why they will not even side with the Syrian Kurds or the Iranian Kurds, because then once they sign to align together, now it presents a problem for all of those countries, and they realize they're going to take land, and all the oil goes through there. So it is a important place, especially for Europe and Russia, who get a lot of their oil from that region. So those things were done back at the end of World War II. Again, of course, Erdogan would like to see the reemergence of the Ottoman Empire. That's his way to get there. Just like Putin would love to see the USSR, I think, come back, because they've lost a lot of power since that part of they lost that after their war in Afghanistan. So you've got two really good ego-related people sitting here in two pretty big countries with a lot of firepower. And it's going to be an interesting one to watch this unfold the next couple of years.
You may be watching right now with the Democrats, a lot of them are wishing the Democratic Party would come back.
Yeah. I can't help them there, so I'm sorry, I can't help them.
In your report, you also mentioned about how the United States and Taliban signed a historic deal just recently aimed at winding down America's longest war. You want to touch on that? Got a few minutes?
Yeah, sure. I see this as good news. Obviously, there are going to be bumps in the road along with this. I mean, you get the usual neocon characters coming out of the woodwork, signing a letter telling the president that withdrawing troops from Afghanistan is a disaster for us. We're going to have more terrorists in our country, and we can't have that. And we need to install a permanent base there, much like we have in South Korea. And the president's not buying it. And so far, he's holding strong. And as long as the Taliban can, not work or invite Al-Qaeda and, ISIS and other terror organizations to train in their country, which before the war, before they, were fighting the Russians and before they fought us, they didn't like the terrorists. I mean, they're very strict Islamic rule people, for sure. Drugs were, they didn't grow poppies. And if you were caught, it was like a death sentence, literally. So, they had a very strict, I guess, extremist, religious perception of, how their culture should, continue on. But when you look at the situation with the terrorists, they didn't want terrorists on their land. I mean, it's not something that was, in their nature. They fought the other, Afghans that, came up, and it comes to be like April, fighting season starts. They fight all summer, and then it gets to be winter, and they all go away for a few months, and then it gets fighting season. That's what they do. It's a tribal nation. It's not a country. Much to, what people seem to think that Afghanistan is a country. It's a tribal nation because it's ruled by different tribes and different sects. So at any given moment, they're fighting one another. And that's where this comes from. So I don't see the Taliban reneging on that part of the deal. What we saw this morning is that now the president of Afghanistan is, balking at some of the prisoner release situation that's going to be going on in that country, to where the Afghanistan government was supposed to release 5,000 prisoners, and the Taliban had 1,000, so they were going to release all of those prisoners. And there seems to be a hiccup on that as to whom is going to be on that list or not on that list. So that will, I'm assuming, diplomats are on the ground trying to, work that out. And we'll see how that goes. But that's actually a good thing.
Let me ask you, and maybe a stupid question, but when they release 5,000, is that like 4,000 of them are going to continue fighting?
I don't, you know what? I don't think so. In my opinion, these are Taliban people. And I mean, the Taliban have got to be tired of fighting. I mean, that's all they've done. I mean, and they're fighting terrorists that they don't want there. So I don't think so. I don't think they'll go back to fighting.
Let's take our break. And Kimberly, you mentioned here on when Trump had dispatched Defense Secretary Mark Esper to Afghanistan, and they issued that joint declaration.
Yeah.
And he sort of put out a warning there that you mentioned in this report about how the United States will not hesitate to nullify the agreement if the Taliban does not honor its commitments.
And honoring those, and honoring its commitments includes fighting to repel ISIS, al-Qaeda, and other terrorist organizations, which the Taliban would, be happy to do. Again, I have to kind of stipulate here that this is a tribal nation. So this country, for civilization, hundreds and thousands of years, has fought amongst each other. This is not going to change. When the U.S. leaves, they're going to continue to fight amongst each other. And I think the commitment that the president was looking for is that, look, we don't care if you guys kill each other off. That's all on you. We don't care. We don't want al-Qaeda coming back. We don't want ISIS being able to use your country as a training ground. And I think that at least for the next 14 months, because of this deal, calls for a full withdrawal of Afghanistan in 14 months. If both parties come up to the table and they live by what the agreement states. And the agreement in essence is that they're going to do a prisoner swap, that the Taliban and the Afghan government would be responsible for fighting other terrorist organizations that try to come into their tribal nation, and the fact that the U.S. would slowly start withdrawing our troops. We're looking at we've got about 12,000 troops sitting in Afghanistan right now. They're looking at taking about 8,600 out within 130 days, which is, a little slow in my book, but hey, it's something. And also on this, like I said earlier, the neocons are really balking at all this, but one country that is with President Trump on this, the Brits. The Brits are following the president's lead on this, saying that they're going to sign on the dotted line as well, and they will begin removing the small number of boots on the ground that they have in Afghanistan as well. So that's, that's good. That's good. We're getting other support.
The Brits don't have Trump syndrome.
No,
you're saying.
Not yet. Give them time. I think everybody kind of gets it, but it's a positive step. I don't know why people are doing flip-flops to say that this is a bad thing. This is America's longest war. 19 years we're coming up, and it'll be 20 here in like 6 months. It'll be 20 years that we've been in this country, Afghanistan. And if we can't beat Afghanistan, which is a landlocked hellhole of a place, I'm sorry, it just is, then we as a nation have a lot of soul searching to do here. And we ought to really let people decide how they want to conduct their daily lives and whether they want to educate their kids or not. Look at Mexico. You can't go sign your kid up for kindergarten and not pay for it. So in essence, you can't get there's no free education in Mexico. So, we're fighting over there for something where, south of the border, there are more deaths, there are more murders, there's more kidnappings, there's more of everything, drugs, you name it, in Mexico. Yet we keep hanging on like our fingernails. We're hanging on in Afghanistan. President Trump made a promise. I hope he stands by that promise, because it's time to leave. It was time to leave, back in 2002.
Yeah. And as we started this report, when we were talking about coronavirus, again, President is saying America first, and we got to bring those pharmaceutical companies back to America.
100%.
Right?
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. Hey, 100. Hey, thank you, Kimberly Dvorak, Dvorak, and the website is thekdreport.com.